OpenAI is reportedly set to finalize its first custom chip design. How soon could that happen?
Yeah, this is an interesting one, right? So, of course, we know everyone is so reliant on NVIDIA. This is OpenAI's way to get a little bit less reliant on NVIDIA. So they're going to be sending their design to TSMC, the major player when it comes to designing chips, sending it out to them for fabrication. The process of sending a first design through a chip factory, I learned, is called taping out. And again, just reducing that reliance on NVIDIA. No timeline yet, but again, if it's in the works, it means maybe it could be soon.
Okay, I tease this story. The president of France, Emmanuel Macron, just announcing a major investment in AI. How much, Taylor?
So we're hearing about 100 billion euros. And this is interesting, wanting it to be AI in France, but really actually coming from the private sector. We are hearing it would come from Brookfield, a Canadian investment firm, about 20 billion euros there, and maybe some financing from the UAE, about 50 billion euros. The lovely man, David, to my right, tells me that likely if Brookfield is involved, it might be about data centers. Again, getting to understand really more about what it is, but big private sector investment for France.
All right.
Meantime, we're watching big tech. These CapEx figures that we got last week from all the hyperscalers are going to start feeding into the supplier earnings, which we're going to get over the next few weeks. NVIDIA, Dell, Broadcom. NVIDIA is up 3%. This is going to take you almost back to the 50-day, which it lost earlier in January. News out of onsemi today. Revenue was a bit light. That was down pre-market. You mentioned OpenAI, and they did say that they're working further on their custom chip design, which then they would outsource to TSMC, which is having its own issues regarding the earthquake in Taiwan. The guidance will be at the low, they'll be coming to the low end of guidance, they say. That's a healthy rebound for NVIDIA.
Well, there was a positive call, too, on it today. Evercore says the DeepSeek sell-off creates an opportunity, quote, we're buyers into earnings. Tactical, obviously, but, you know, there's a fair debate happening on the street right now as to whether the big beat and raise days for NVIDIA were over before DeepSeek, just because how can you possibly keep up? I'm not saying you can't beat and raise, but how do you beat and raise by that much continuously to keep the stock and the expectations where they have just been unbelievable? Now DeepSeek creates even more questions going in, but the stock sold off considerably and had a hard time recovering from that.
Yeah, I have to wonder, too, what it means for investment into China. There was that piece over the weekend, I believe, which talked about how the DeepSeek phenomenon has kind of reignited interest in investing in China. And this comes against the backdrop of everything we've seen with ByteDance and TikTok and all of the geopolitical issues. But you do have a incredible amount of talent in China, which is important for the tech ecosystem. And so just kind of what DeepSeek revealed about the potential for investing there in a way that really hasn't been the case over the last few years or so, is these tensions have simmered as the nations have decoupled as a result of just the competitive threat there, kind of reigniting the interest in investing in China. I thought was pretty interesting and pretty bold.
Right. One thing that spooked the markets last week, or the week, I guess it was the week before last, was the DeepSeek story. Yeah. DeepSeek AI. Original claims were that for a few $1 million, they were able to do stuff that it took our AI companies billions of dollars to do. Now there's new news that we're hearing. First of all, it costs more like $1.6 billion for them to come up with what they came up with. And their product, apparently it has an 83% fail rate. So it cost a lot more than they originally said. And the failure rate they weren't even talking about before is 83%.
The proof is in the pudding. $325 billion of collective spend on CapEx out of the hyperscalers subsequent to that DeepSeek news. You're talking about literally the smartest people in the room in terms of the Mag 7 and the big tech cohort, and they're putting money where their mouth is. So I think you want to continue to be in that space. You probably want to be in the digital infrastructure a la data center space above all. But the biggest takeaway from that DeepSeek moment was you have to be diversified. My clients that had their risks spread out didn't even bat an eyelash at that drawdown. So just don't put all your eggs in the AI basket.
Let's start with NVIDIA. We were talking about it.
3% gain. They were added to Evercore's tactical outperform list, with the analysts there recommending buying NVIDIA ahead of their earnings in about 2 weeks from now on the 26th.
You really don't have strong reaction after earnings for the majority of these Mag 7. Now,
the only one you did was Meta.
Yeah, and we're waiting for NVIDIA. So I could be wrong on that because NVIDIA could turn around and appreciate significantly.
Well, I mean, Amy, NVIDIA, Evercore today says the DeepSeek sell-off was an opportunity into the print. They want a tactical outperform. They do report on the 26th. So you got to wait a little bit. By the way, from the 13F, I saw that Tepper increased NVIDIA position by 8%. A little small bump up. And, you know, that stock has obviously been in question. I know you laugh because it's a small bump up.
8%.
Well, for a big fish.
Yeah.
For a whale.
Right. I think NVIDIA's quarter is going to be fine. You know, you saw the CapEx numbers from all of these guys, and they were up huge, and that's going to be to their benefit. But from a long-term perspective, would I be adding to NVIDIA right now? Probably not. You know, we've owned it forever. We had clients who would kill us if we sold it at the end of last year. Those same clients are saying, you know what, you can sell some now. It's funny how when something goes down 25%, people are less in love with it, and that becomes a little bit of a self-fulfilling prophecy. But look, NVIDIA is a great company. They have a great position. The question in my mind is all about valuation. Should it be a $3 trillion company at this point?
Okay.
And I think that's fair, that's a fair question.
All right, I hope you're all doing great today. The S&P finished the day up nearly 0.7%, and NVIDIA had a nice day, finishing up nearly 2.9%. As I've said many times over the past couple of weeks, I do not think DeepSeek is a problem for NVIDIA, and I think it will actually be a good thing for NVIDIA in the long run. I said numerous times that I thought DeepSeek had a much larger budget than $6 million, and that they had tens of thousands of high-end NVIDIA GPUs. And if that were the case, then the DeepSeek sell-off in NVIDIA stock was just an unjustified overreaction. Then we got the semi-analysis report that made me even more confident in saying that they thought DeepSeek had a budget of roughly $1.6 billion and 50,000 NVIDIA Hopper GPUs. I said many times that the DeepSeek sell-off in NVIDIA stock was unjustified and that it was only a matter of time before market participants would come to this realization. And then finally this weekend, I started seeing multiple mainstream news outlets acknowledge that DeepSeek is actually not a problem for NVIDIA and that the recent sell-off may have been overdone. And now NVIDIA stock has clearly entered the gap that formed 2 weeks ago when the market first found out about DeepSeek. Looking ahead, be prepared if we get news about tariffs on Taiwan or if we get more news about chip tariffs. If we get news about tariffs on Taiwan or if we learn the specific details of the chip tariffs that President Trump promised after meeting with Jensen Huang, then that would likely put some short-term pressure on NVIDIA stock. So be prepared for that in the days ahead just in case. We also need to talk about something that Taiwan Semiconductor said today. Remember that TSMC is the company that manufactures NVIDIA's chips. TSMC published their January revenue report as well as a statement about the earthquake in Taiwan that happened on January 21st. TSMC said that a certain number of wafers in process were impacted and had to be scrapped due to the earthquake and aftershocks. As a result, TSMC's revenue for the first quarter of 2025 is expected to be closer to the lower end of the guidance range. That is not ideal, and I do wonder what impact this will have on NVIDIA. The earthquake took place during the fiscal quarter that NVIDIA is going to report earnings for on February 26th. However, the earthquake happened near the very end of NVIDIA's fiscal quarter, and so I don't think this is likely to have an impact on NVIDIA's revenue that they report on February 26th. However, it is possible that this situation could have a slight impact on NVIDIA's next quarter guidance that they give on February 26th. Even if that is the case, I think this whole situation is just a short-term speed bump in the grand scheme of things, and I'm just bringing it to your attention so that you're aware of it. Overall, I'm optimistic as Blackwell production is ramping in volume, and as we have both earnings and GTC on the horizon. We have NVIDIA earnings on February 26th, and then GTC March 17th through the 21st. GTC is where we are likely to get news about NVIDIA's products in the data center, which is where NVIDIA makes the majority of their revenue. We may learn more about Rubin, which is the generation after Blackwell, and we may even learn about the next generation after Rubin. Be prepared if we get more tariff news that may put some pressure on NVIDIA stock in the short term. But overall, I'm optimistic, and I think NVIDIA is still making great progress forward. With all of that being said, I hope you all have a great rest of the day, and I'm curious to hear your thoughts about NVIDIA in the comments below. Please leave a like on this video so more people will see it. And while you're down there, please consider subscribing. It's free, and you can always change your mind. Thanks for watching, and hopefully I'll see you in the next video.